I smoothed the hem of my midnight blue dress, Stella McCartney, minimalist and precise. Not that anyone here would know. Around me, the Ridgemont Country Club shimmered in a haze of champagne, couture, and thinly veiled competition. Another holiday benefit. Charleston-style. My mother's annual ode to surface-level generosity. A year ago, in this very ballroom, they toasted my cousin Isabelle's rise to senior director at a hedge fund. Tonight, I carried trays. Cameron, sweetheart. My mother cooed, saccharine threading her tone like ribbon. The Langstons are empty. Do be quick about it. I nodded silently. The Langstons, whose family trust one quietly managed through one of my fintech arms in Zurich. Still in catering? Isabelle's voice sparkled as she sidled up in sequins and superiority. Or was it events now? You were in Berlin, right? If she meant structuring cross-border acquisitions as CEO of Novastar Capital, then yes, very festive. I offered nothing, adjusting my tray as I drifted past. Oh, Cameron, she added, mock concern bright in her eyes. Mother said to send you to the kitchen after. The staff's falling behind. The staff. She meant the Michelin-trained chefs I'd flown in from Lyon, paid through an anonymous grant, one of many my holding company funded. The caviar, baccarat crystal, and ambient lighting, all courtesy of aliases they'd never trace. Cameron, my stepfather's voice boomed, the Langstons need ice. The Langstons, who had pitched their agri-tech startup to me last week, rejected. Of course, they had no idea the woman topping off their drinks had shuttered their funding with a single signature. As I crossed the floor, my phone buzzed. I stepped behind a pillar and checked the screen. Message from AIA Nakamu. Subject, Singapore deal. Closed at $680 million. Investor board approved AP pack expansion. Next steps? In a meeting. We'll follow up after. I typed back with one hand. Across the ballroom, glasses clinked. Laughter rose. Ignorance sparkled. In 1 hour, the MC would tap the mic, hush the room, and announce the evening's surprise keynote. And the girl in the midnight dress would no longer be the help. We'll call later, I added, slipping my phone back into my clutch. Let them believe I was tied up in another failed job lead. Easier than explaining I was here incognito, funding most of the room's opulence while my family still whispered about my potential. Who's texting now? Isabelle reappeared, voice syrupy with mock sympathy. She twirled her champagne flute. Your manager from that little import shop in Berlin? Still hanging on to that? I smiled faintly. That little import shop was now a multinational logistics conglomerate. But sure, let her think I was scraping by. Just work, I murmured, eyes sweeping the ballroom. Speak of the devil. Oh, Cameron, my mother said, gliding over in an emerald gown and pearls. Did you hear? Isabelle just closed another acquisition. 10 million in bonuses this quarter. Isn't that fabulous? I nodded, having surpassed that figure before breakfast in a Taiwanese LBO. Very impressive, I offered. My stepfather emerged from a knot of donors, the Langstons at his side. Isabelle's really showing what a Hamilton can achieve with focus and discipline. He beamed, unlike others. Mr. Langston's hand trembled slightly as he raised his glass. Understandable, his funding lifeline had been severed by the woman offering refills. Not everyone's cut out for corporate, Isabelle said, glancing at my tray. Some of us find our lane, others keep wandering. My mother sighed, hand on her pearls. We gave Cameron everything, Swiss schools, Ivy League summers, but she always had to do things her way. Remember when she turned down that analyst job you lined up at Morgan? Wanted to build something, Isabelle said, air quoting. Now she's building drink towers, I suppose. My phone lit again. Royal Investment Council confirmed. Buckingham Palace breakfast. Jet is fueled and cleared. My mother noticed and frowned. Always on that phone. No wonder you can't hold down something stable. Actually, I began. Oh, let her scroll. Isabelle interrupted. She's probably looking for gig work. Poor thing. My stepfather sighed dramatically. At least lend a hand. The kitchen's backed up. Something in me shifted then. 3 years of shadows. 3 years of letting them think I'd failed, while funding their events, their charities, even their holidays. I set down the tray gently. I really should go, I said. To where? Isabelle scoffed. A meeting, I replied, straightening. They don't like to wait. I walked toward the front doors, where my car and driver were already parked under the portico. The keynote speaker was about to arrive. And tonight, they'd finally learn my name. If you've ever been underestimated, you won't want to miss what happens next. Subscribe, because when Cameron takes the mic, everything changes. Behind me, Isabelle laughed, loud and shrill, a final grasp at dominance. A meeting? At this hour? With who? Your Uber Eats contact. She raised her glass, smug. Smile for the camera. Enough, Mom snapped, her tone slicing through the chatter like cut glass. You'll stay and help clean up. It's the least you can do after everything we spent on this night. Everything, the venue, the orchestra, the vintage Bordeaux they flaunted like family legacy, had been funded by me, quietly, through 3 holding firms, 2 anonymous donors, and a trust no one had traced. Isabelle raised her glass in a mocking toast. The help doesn't leave until the job's done, right? Isn't that right, sister dear? Laughter rippled from the surrounding donors. They looked at me with that familiar mix of pity and derision. To them, I was still the family embarrassment in heels. The Den's sons, desperate for a capital infusion to save their crumbling manufacturing line. The Langstons, rescued from insolvency by a lifeline they never knew I'd extended. Isabelle, bragging about a $10 million bonus that wouldn't even earn a line item in my quarterly report. My phone buzzed. James, cars are ready. Weather's clear. Pilot standing by. I glanced down at the tray in my hands, then around the room. The champagne, purchased by my hospitality firm. The florals, arranged by an event designer I bankrolled. The ballroom itself, owned, quietly, by a shell company I acquired last spring. Maybe it was time to stop pretending. I set the tray down with deliberate grace. Actually, I said, smoothing the front of my dress, I have a meeting to get to. Dad flushed a furious red. More important than your mother's charity gala? More important than family? Isabelle snorted. What? Are you helping someone unload pallets at Whole Foods? The Patek Philippe on my wrist glinted beneath the lights. I checked the time. Something like that, I said lightly. You are not leaving, Mom snapped, stepping toward me. You'll stay and clean, Cameron. That's all you're good for. The room hushed. I smiled, utterly calm. I just need to make a quick call. Gasps rippled through the crowd as I raised my phone. Isabelle leaned in, eyes gleaming, certain she was about to witness a meltdown. James, I said, clearly and without urgency, please come in. Bring the Henderson contracts with you. Mr. Den's son sputtered into his flute. The what? The ballroom doors opened. James entered first, precise, polished, in a tailored suit. My executive team followed behind him, carrying sleek leather briefcases and an air of authority that didn't need announcing. He bowed. Madam, the jet is fueled and ready. Also, Her Majesty's advisors have rescheduled breakfast to 8 a.m. They're ready to proceed on the merger. Silence. Isabelle's smirk melted, her face folding into a cocktail of confusion and dread. Thank you, James, I said, then turned to Mr. Den's son. I wanted to assess your company in person before revealing my position. Unfortunately, as CEO of Novastar Capital Group, I've concluded your firm's structure isn't viable in its current state. Novastar? My mother echoed, voice faint. Yes, I said simply, the largest private investment firm in Europe. We're expanding globally. My gaze slid to Isabelle. That import shop in Berlin? Just one of many holdings under our logistics and acquisitions umbrella. Dad's mouth opened, but no sound came. You couldn't possibly build an empire? I said. Without your approval? Without your praise? I did. Isabelle stumbled back, grabbing a chair for support. I'm VP at Goldman, she said weakly. You can't. You were VP, I said. I nodded to Daniela. Daniela stepped forward. As of this morning, Novastar's acquisition of your division is final. Transition begins next week. You'll be reporting to our APAC director, unless we choose to restructure. The murmur began, a low hum at first, then a spreading current of disbelief. This entire event, I said, voice even, Was funded through 4 subsidiaries I own. This building? Bought last June. The champagne? From my vineyard in Provence. Mom sank into a chair, visibly trembling. Why didn't you say something? I laughed. Soft and cold. Would you have believed me? You wouldn't even let me intern. Dad stepped forward. Lost. Cameron. You needed me, I said, calm but final. You just didn't know it. I turned to the stunned guests. The Denson's miracle recovery? That was me. The anonymous investor that saved your firm. Dad? Also me. And Isabelle's big London meeting last fall? A tall, silver-haired man stepped from my team. She was meeting with me, he said, his English accent crisp. I oversee Novastar's UK operations. Then the ballroom doors opened again. Lord Sheffield entered, the embodiment of quiet European power. His coat still carried a trace of Charleston's night air. Apologies for the delay, Cameron, he said, his voice smooth as aged port. Traffic from the airfield was horrid. You're right on time, Charles, I said with a smile. We were just setting the stage. My mother's jaw dropped. You know Lord Sheffield? Quite well, he said cheerfully. Her firm manages the royal family's private investments. Brilliant team. Couldn't be in better hands. The crowd stared, wide-eyed and breathless. And for the first time in years, I let them see me, fully, unmistakably. Not the disappointment, not the waitress, but the woman who owned the room. Brilliant woman, truly. I'm often just trying to keep up, Lord Sheffield said with a playful shake of his head. Though I must admit, I didn't expect to find you handing out flutes of champagne. That was intentional, I replied evenly. I wanted to see how long my family would keep underestimating me, while living off the fruits of my work, completely unaware. James stepped forward, phone in hand. Madam, we should depart soon if we want to make the London breakfast on time. I turned to face the room. My family stood frozen, shock, confusion, and dawning regret etched across their faces. I'd stay and help with the cleanup, I said, but I have a meeting at Buckingham Palace in 10 hours. I'm sure you'll understand. Cameron, wait. Mom rose suddenly, hands trembling. We can talk. As a family. Family. I let the word linger. Family doesn't mock their daughter's ambition. Family doesn't dismiss her, then quietly take credit for her success. My voice was cool but unshakable. But don't worry, I'll have my CFO send invoices for all the events I've covered, since family means so much to you. Isabelle stepped forward, her earlier arrogance replaced with practiced concern. Sister, surely we can. Can what? I interrupted. Pretend a little longer? Keep the illusion alive while you flash titles I technically own? She opened her mouth to argue, but I cut her off. Enjoy your new role in the Asia-Pacific office. I hear junior analysts there work a lot harder than VPs. Dad finally found his voice. You can't just walk out on your family. I met his gaze. Watch me. I nodded to James. He opened the grand ballroom doors. I walked forward. The crowd instinctively parted, whispers chasing me like shadows. Lord Sheffield fell in beside me, his grin restrained but unmistakable. Well played, he murmured. Worth flying in early. Thank you for the theater, I said softly. The royal breakfast detail really sealed it. Oh, that part's real. Lord Sheffield smiled as we stepped into the private elevator. Her Majesty is thoroughly impressed with your investment strategy, though I doubt she imagined her top financial advisor handing out champagne at charity functions. I laughed, tension finally easing from my shoulders. I figured it was the most efficient way to watch them reveal themselves. As the doors began to close, I caught one last glimpse of the ballroom. Of my past. Mom slumped in her chair, eyes hollow. Dad stared into the distance, stunned. And Isabelle, frantically typing away on her phone, desperately trying to salvage her career. James, I said as we descended, voice calm, almost cheerful. Make sure the cleaning staff receives a generous bonus tonight. He nodded, absolutely, madam. I smiled to myself, recalling Isabelle's earlier jab. Someone had to serve the drinks, after all. Later that evening, 40,000 feet above the Atlantic, I reclined in the leather chair of my private jet, wrapped in soft silence and starlight. My phone buzzed relentlessly, messages piling in as news of my identity rippled through the social circles my family once worshipped. Mom, Cameron, please, we need to talk. We didn't know. Isabelle, about that analyst offer. Maybe we can revisit? Dad, the board wants an urgent meeting. I deleted them all without hesitation. Instead, I turned back to the contracts spread across the polished table. One for a merger in Tokyo. Another for expansion in Sao Paulo. Let them sit in it. Let them feel the weight of what they dismissed. Let them replay every insult while realizing they were sipping champagne beneath a roof I owned. Sometimes the best revenge isn't a word. It's letting your success speak, one glass at a time. If you've ever been underestimated by family, coworkers, or even yourself, then you know what I felt standing in that ballroom. I didn't make a scene for revenge. I made a choice to stop hiding. If my story resonates with you, drop a comment below. Tell me, have you ever had to succeed in silence? I read every message. Your stories mean everything. They remind me we're not alone in this quiet kind of strength. And if you're still in the shadows, still building, still waiting for your moment, don't stop. Your silence doesn't make you invisible. It's your foundation. Subscribe if you believe in quiet power, in grace under pressure, in letting success speak for itself. Support those rising quietly. Support those building empires without applause. Because one day, like me, your name will be the one they whisper with awe.